Then they go into some other stuff.
You talk to me that you got accepted to college at 7 years of age. You can read fluently at 3 years of age.
I don't know if we can verify that. He starts talking to him about his life. And a lot of these claims are where people felt like there were untruths about this. Somebody who I respect pretty greatly, he was watching, he was like, yo, this dude saying that he had this, whatever, to college at this age, or he was able to, and all of these kinds of things. Now, I don't know for sure what Katt Williams' IQ is. And a lot of times we think of geniuses as these people in specific functions. But in reality, a lot of times they look and act like regular people. And you don't know how intelligent this man is. Have him take an IQ test. That would be one way of doing so. But you would be surprised. What that is capitalization. Just because a person is a genius doesn't mean that they're going to be as successful. Because a lot of times there's early childhood burnout. There's all of these different, you need the proper support in order to capitalize on it. And if this dude moved out at 13 years old, which he's making the claim that he did, he emancipated himself from his parents at 13 years old, then I don't know, that could be true. During this point of the interview is where Katt Williams gets really, you can tell he's incredibly emotional about all of those stories, his family and his father.
Especially if what you're saying is wrong. I can't condone wrong. And if I find out that something is wrong and I tell you it's wrong and you don't back me.
At first I was getting frustrated, like, oh, you've been so transparent all this time and now you can't talk. And then I realized, oh, this is the me thing. He's dealing with emotions. Emotions don't lend themselves to the same facility when it comes to articulation. When I'm expressing myself, like when I'm doing a video, it's so easy to talk. I did therapy with my ex-fiance, and I remember I'd recorded it. And when I watched it back, I realized how much I was struggling to communicate to the therapist. And I realized, man, this is a different field. I consider myself to be a very articulate person. Almost this entire video is extemporaneous. Talking about emotions, it gets so much more complex. It's not like you can just logically delineate everything. Now there's these gray areas. You have mixed feelings, and now you're also trying to protect people. So you just can't be as straightforward as you want to be. Because it's like, I want to just say this person did me wrong, but it's like, oh, I don't want to speak irreverently about my dad. So now you're in these mixed things. And so this is where I think the interview is where he's the least articulate about any of the things and the least definite about any of these subjects.
It wasn't a conversation. It was an altercation. In the altercation, I love my father loved me, but we are two men at it. I'm not being challenged, I'm being beat to death.
Oh, he was abusive.
I didn't say that. I said we were in an altercation. I in no way gave you the impression that I won anything. I'm the one leaving. I'm out of bounds. This is his house.
Right.
Yeah.
Jehovah's Witnesses that's a cult. As a person who had a cult-like background, that's a cult. And when you're dealing with that kind of stuff, the excommunication and stuff that happens over those things is really gross.
Don't try to disfellowship me for sexual acts and I'm a virgin. Sorry, God don't make mistakes. You don't get 2 times to fuck me over.
I don't know that I've ever mentioned this in video, but myself, I remember being a grown man, over 25 years of age, having a breakdown because my mother discovered that I was sexually active. When you're in these kind of environments, and a lot of it ends up being self-imposed, my end, because I think my mother and we spoke about that rather recently, and she was explaining, I just didn't understand why you still thought that I thought of you that way. And I didn't know why I don't know why, I just assumed, because I kind of carried myself in a certain way on purpose. I was dang near living a double life in that regard. I'm the youngest of 7. I have 4 older brothers. My mother mentioned one day that she had put something in one of somebody's drawer, and upon opening the drawer, she saw a box of condoms and said, okay, well, at least they're being safe. You know, people get older and she realized I can't make my children abstinent, right? But I didn't know this, and I just knew Mom expects us to be good Christian children. That sort of thing, when you're in that kind of environment, living with those kind of, it does affect you in a different way. Jehovah's Witnesses is a totally different level. I mean, it's insane. The reason why all of this stuff becomes important is because what he details here is why he never did drugs.
And to see that these were lawyers and doctors and teachers, and that these people were white and black and Asian and Indian, and the only thing that all of these homeless people had in common was they made a bad decision and aligned themselves with drugs. And I interviewed them all. What drug? And guess what, Shannon?
What?
Nobody had a great story. Nobody had a great story of what meth had done for them, what crack had done for them, what cocaine had done for them, what heroin had done for them, what speed had done for them. Nobody had them stories. Everybody's story was, I had my life together. And then I decided to do this dumb thing. And I lost my wife, I lost my house, I lost my cars, I lost my reputation, and now I'm out here sucking penis in the woods. What? Talk about scared straight.
And of course, there is no proof that he's ever done drugs. And he mentioned in another interview, or mentioned in another video,
The reason I don't do cocaine, Big Tigger, is because I had a tumor in my upper jaw and they had to take it out, and they had to block the whole right of my sinus with a piece of metal. So ever since I got out the Marine Corps, I can only breathe out of one nostril, boy. I get my blood tested every 3 months for the last 15 years. All narcotic tests have come up 0.00%. I'm 44 years old, little Tigger. You look up my rap sheet. I have never had a DUI or a possession of anything, not even the marijuana I do every day. See, when you real, you can tell the truth about anything or anybody.
So it seems to me like this is just an assumption. But let's use Katt Williams' words on himself. You see, in that rant, which I disagree with largely, despite certain parts of it being freaking hilarious, what does he say?
If a motherfucker call you a crackhead for 20 years, bitch, you are smoking crack.
These are his words. This is why you can't judge people based off of accusations. And what does the scripture say? Judge not lest he be judged. Remove the beam from your own eye so you can see clearly to help your brother. I mean, you're making this claim that if these accusations have been for this long, then it must be true. But it's not true in your case, is it? And if it's not true in your case, then how can you simply say, therefore Michael Jackson is guilty? How do you throw this black man under the bus?
No, I'm supposed to be happy because he used to be black.
These were your words. How do you justify that with all of these accusations? Give it time and you'll have 20 years of people accusing you of being on drugs. And according to you, you say you haven't done drugs. I don't think accusations are enough. He does mention a bunch of comedians positively.
I like Chappelle, I like Patrice O'Neal, like I like the greats of comedy because I do. Like I like Ron White, I like Bill Engvall, like I know comics, like people that did the craft, they raised me. I was touring with Steve Marmel and Richard Jenny and real journeymen.
It sounds like he just has issues with the few people who he feels like robbed jokes and stole jokes. And we now have evidence that Steve Harvey stole Mark Curry's joke. Mark Curry had made the claim previously in another interview. This is echoed by him. We have receipts.
Oh yeah, you'll need this.
A whistle? Mark, I'm teaching music, not gym.
Standard issue. Screaming for help only excites the kids. First of all, I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Mr. Hightower, and I'm your new music teacher.
When he starts talking about enemies, he's like,
And all my enemies all look the same in the eyes, whether it's Faison, Wanda, Aries, Spears.
now we get the context because I didn't understand fully why. He gives explanation for why he went on Wanda Smith the way he did.
It was the fact that before I go in there, she has a conversation about, okay, now, I just want to talk to you because you just won an Emmy for the city of Atlanta, and this is in Atlanta, and they just want to hear about the Emmy and hear from you and to thank you for what you did putting the city on.
Right. Got an Emmy for that role. That was a show, Atlanta. And so because Wanda Smith's radio show was in Atlanta.
And we won't talk about your kids. We won't talk about jail, no cases. We ain't gonna talk about none of that.
He gets on the show. She never mentions the Emmy once and instead starts talking about your kids. And
That's dope.
You cook? Do you cook for your kids?
Absolutely.
Tell me some of the things you cook that they are proud of. Like, Dad made some. You got the best spaghetti. You got the best steak. What do you have? Tell us what you cook.
As a father of 7 with an unlimited food budget, you can make whatever is necessary.
I
with
said
7,
what they like.
Excuse me. I'm
I
still
said what do they
answering.
like?
Just because you're a poor interviewer doesn't mean.
I said you answer the question. You're good at telling us about what's going on in jail. And hurry up and get to the salon. All right, it's the People Station Viewer 3. Your hair is kind of... And you're big
Turn
in
it
prison.
down.
And you're
Yes,
big in
ma'am.
prison.
I've never been to prison.
You have
19
several
felonies,
times.
no convictions.
Yeah,
Knock it
yeah.
off. Prison and jail aren't the same. No.
So now he feels attacked. And she took smallest of jabs, which I didn't think were appropriate. But if you brought me on here to talk about an Emmy, never mention the Emmy, and instead talk about the very thing that you said you weren't going to talk about, I feel some type of way. And what I do is drag people because I'm a comedian. Now we get the context for it. Was it still bullying to some degree? I mean, maybe. I don't know. I don't feel so passionately about it now as I did before I saw this explanation. And again, I don't know for sure if that's true. If it's true, then that makes sense why he would do that. And it almost kind of lines up because, as he said,
all the comedians have to come do these radio stations because you have to sell your tickets. And so that means you have to go to the radio station.
Yes.
I don't go to the radio station and I don't make posts to sell tickets. I just don't.
And so if that's the case, and I went on this show because we were going to talk about this Emmy and the importance of Black success and expanding opportunities. And he really wanted to give big ups to Donald Glover, who is a fellow comedian who he also respects and finds to be quite funny. If all of those things are the reason why I'm doing this, and instead you do that to me, yeah, I feel some type of way. Catch this work. Then he mentions
they tried to kill me this same weekend, not in jokes, with a real gun in my real face on real camera. Understand I'm losing my life for participating in something that goes along with my job. Like, it's two comedians. What do you mean?
Of course, I don't know. I got to probably do a little bit more research into that. He mentions that...
And Gaza strip it. That's non-political. I'm saying, if you do it, you let a terrorist accidentally touch over here. And I won't stop burning you down until there ain't nothing left. It'll literally be rubble on top of rubble, and I'll still be bombing.
And this is another thing that I very much disagree with. I don't think making fun of that assault on those people or using that as an example was probably the appropriate thing. We're talking about people who are being bombed. God knows how many innocent civilians have died in this situation. This isn't a Palestine-Israel conflict conversation. That's not what this is. But what we can say factually, not trying to take a side in any capacity, there have been a great number of innocent civilians who are in no way, shape, or form related or associated to Hamas who have died in that conflict in Gaza. So to say, "I'll Gaza strip it," I think that's a little bit far. But it's not my fight. You say what you say. You chose the analogy you did. I get the point that you were making. Another shot he takes, which I believe is OD.
I can't even imagine the misery of these bums.
He starts talking again about how he crafted Money Mike, because that's been an important thing. Because again, when people are trying to take that role from you or trying to say that you didn't do it appropriately or that you didn't develop it, you want to clear that up. And he clearly did. And so here he goes ahead and he says,
the first thing I do is erase me from it.
Okay.
So anything that I would naturally do, that's what I'm not going to do because I'm playing a different character.
Playing the character. Okay.
Right. So I then create this person based upon real life circumstances. So I don't have to wonder what a pimp thinks because I've been in that position for a little while. Adding those levels to acting is what all actors do if they're not Steve or Cedric or Ricky.
Bro, he was on their heads. The whole time he never stopped taking shots at those three. It was wild. I think what has been deemed the funniest line or favorite line of almost everyone that watched the special is this. So when Shannon Sharp is doing his due diligence and defending, Faison Love, he's not part of their beef. And I think he has a relationship with some of these people. He's like,
let Big Worm breathe.
That's when Katt Williams says,
stall him out now.
You having an unnatural allegiance to losers is not like you.
The way he paused before he delivered that line in the first place was too much. That's a bar, okay? This is where it gets real good because he asks him,
if what you're saying is correct, why wasn't he in next Friday or Friday after next?
I mean, his role,
it wasn't good.
It wasn't good. Because he's been so kind of even toned this whole time, and the way he just interjects, he wasn't good. Kills me. That's my probable top 3 favorite lines in the way he delivered it. Now, look, here's where it goes. Because listen, There was a point where people were saying, look, he had to have had drug usage. It was crazy. They were doing that because, like, yeah, look at his two front teeth. And I do know people who have done meth or different drugs who have lost their two front teeth because of it. That is a common thing that happens because some drugs weaken your teeth. Any kind of pressure, anything like that will make them fall out or crack or chip, like almost to the gum line. Here, he explains how he broke his two front teeth.
5 months prior to me getting this first audition for Friday After Next, I got this baby son. I'm holding him up above me. He grabs my little chain. He's playing with it, and he accidentally drops it. It breaks out my front two teeth.
I myself had an experience. I remember we had drank like a hot drink, and then I was drinking a Capri Sun afterwards. And I learned that if you do hot and cold, it weakens things very greatly, specifically your teeth. And I just had a sucker. And I remember just like eating this sucker and then like hitting it against my teeth and they chipped. Then I had to go to the dentist and they had to like fill in those chips in my teeth. That happened to me. Mistakes can happen. And then even worse, in 2007, you can find old interviews of me when I was in the fighting game community. Missing. I had this big chunk missing in my two front teeth. And I used to talk covering my mouth like this without moving lips because I was so embarrassed about my teeth because I had this big old chip in my teeth. The way I fixed my teeth is I ended up doing that $50,000 money match with Tone in Marvel vs. Capcom 2 in 2010. Using some of the money from that, I financed my very first album. I went to a dentist and paid for them to fix my teeth out of pocket because I had no health insurance, no dental insurance. That's how I paid for my teeth to get fixed. My teeth were bad. Just though that chip, I was swimming in a swimming pool. I hit the bottom of the thing, my teeth chipped, and it was just like that. I remember in the beginning, it was like there was all of this pain from just breathing, from the air touching the nerve. Then eventually that went away. But no matter what, the teeth they weren't coming back. I mean, it wasn't going to grow back. I had to get it fixed. So in the same sense, he talks about this story.
I'm in a situation now where when I go to the dentist, they telling me this going to cost thousands and thousands of dollars to fix this right. They're not telling me what it's going to look like. I go get an estimate with no money involved, find out what I need to do. They find out you got a tumor in your upper jaw, so we're gonna have to do a whole surgery for you. It's gonna be 100 bands. I don't have it.
It's not unheard of. If that story is true, and he could just be an elaborate liar, or that's how he lost his teeth. But some people would just say, no, it was just drugs. With no evidence. Now he goes back in on Ricky Smiley.
The dude said the entire time we were filming, I can't play this role. They got a bandana over my nose and my mouth. My family not even gonna know who this is.
Which I believe that. I think another important line is when he starts talking about.
For a 5-year period, every single movie that Kevin Hart did was a movie that had been on my desk, that all I had said was, just, can we take some of this step and fetch it shit out? And then I can do it. Like, it don't need to be overtly homosexual, because I'm not homosexual, right? It doesn't need that to be funny, right?
Again, this is part of his overarching theme about the Hollywood, like turning out people and making people gay within these